Chapter 5. Even in my most imaginative nightmares, I never dreamed a day could start with an invitation to the Chanel sample sale and end with a New York nervous breakdown. Don't tell her I said this, or she'll think I'm a two-faced liar, whispered Julie conspiratorially one beautiful May morning over a cafe au lait at Tartine. But KK's New York City Opera benefit, which is universally considered to be the benefit of benefits, is not even 5% as thrilling as the Chanel sample sale. Show me a Manhattan girl who'd rather watch Don Giovanni than shop Chanel at Target prices, and I'll renew my membership at Equinox Gym on 63rd Street and actually start going on a semi-regular basis. According to Julie, the Chanel sample sale is the event of New York events. Absolutely no one gets invited except very few, very exclusive girls. But you're in, Julie said, handing me a white envelope. I got you on the list. Inside was a stiff white card from Chanel. I was beyond excited, which was très alarming, actually. I adore Julie, but her shopping habits are not exactly healthy. I didn't want to turn into a girl like her, whose hormone system is ruled by retail opportunities, but apparently everyone's estrogen skyrockets the first time they get this particular invitation, so there's no need to be freaked by it. It read, Chanel sample sale, Tuesday, May 7th, 7:15 a.m., Park Lane Hotel, 58th Street between 6th and 7th, bring photo ID, no admittance without this card, this is your security pass. Security at Chanel is tighter than at the Pentagon. The president should take tips from the PR girls there because the Chanel guards run a tighter ship than the Department of Homeland Security. The annoying thing was I couldn't go to the sample sale because of work. Careers are very unreliable things, and you have to be attentive to them, or they just disappear. New York girls who go to too many parties and sample sales tend to have disappearing type careers, and I didn't want to be one of them. I was booked to fly down to Palm Beach to do an interview with a society girl. She just inherited an Art Deco beach mansion. She lived there all alone like a millennial Doris Duke. It was sad, really, but very glamorous. Fool, said Julie when I told her I wasn't coming. You cannot miss this. I knew I should do the interview, but I just couldn't resist the idea of shopping Chanel like it was the Gap. Occasionally, my value system inexplicably abandons me, and I find myself doing things I never usually would. Feeling unbelievably guilty, I called the office and said that the Palm Beach airs had canceled due to fatigue. My editor believed me. Society girls are always backing out of things at the absolute last minute because they are too tired after last night, quote-unquote. When I'd spoken to the heiress, she'd sounded extremely tired anyway, poor bitch thing, so it wasn't really a lie at all. Just a convenient delay for both of us. That Monday, I could barely concentrate on anything. Chanel's invite was so mesmerizing, with the future promise of quilted purses for $150 instead of $2,000. Parentheses, no wonder your estrogen goes nuts. That I actually physically forgot that there had been zero rendezvous with Zach for a seriously long time. I'd become used to the lack of intimate Brazilian encounters, but now it seemed like he wasn't even prepared to see me for a cocktail. Whenever I'd called in the last few days, his assistant had just said he'll return and hung up. This never used to happen. Zach always used to take my calls. The hottest sample sales in New York are so fraught with danger, they make the Gaza Strip look peaceful. Honestly, I once saw KK almost murder her own cousin at a TSE sample sale because they both wanted this great white cashmere peacoat, and there was only one of them. It's no wonder that Jolene Morgan organizes all her quote-unquote shopping attacks in advance on such occasions. She called a pre-Chanel strategy meeting with Lara, Loa, Julie, and myself over lunch at the Four Seasons restaurant on East 52nd Street. Sometimes I worry about Jolene's mental state. I really do. The Four Seasons is the kind of place the mayor and the media moguls lunch. It wasn't exactly the most obvious place for a fashion summit, but I guess Jolene wanted to be in the company of other brilliant strategists. When I arrived, Laura and Jolene were already analyzing the menu for hidden carbs. They got in one of the great tables right by the fountain with leather banquet seating. Among the sea of power lunchers, they looked like two colorful birds. Jolene was in a sexy pale blue dress, who has, nipped in at the waist to show off her pretty curves. Lara, who has two of the longest legs in Manhattan, was in a tiny white miniskirt and a scarlet sweater. Her long blonde hair was scooped up in a ponytail. She's a tomboyish style and totally gets away with it, which bugs the hell out of Jolene, even though they've been best friends forever. Sometimes I think Lara is mainly Jolene's best friend because she does absolutely everything Jolene tells her to. I sat down and ordered a Pellegrino and a salad. Jolene was acting like a crazy person, which isn't all that different from usual, actually. She was obsessed with getting the new pink quilt purse with a gilt chain from the Chanel Resort collection. I warned her that since Reese Witherspoon had carried the exact same purse to the Oscars, everyone was going to try and snag that one first. I didn't want Jolene to be disappointed. I mean, the fallout would be horrible for all of us. It's not an issue, declared Jolene. I got the floor plan and I know exactly where the pastel quilts are going to be located. At the far end of the ballroom behind the size 38 cashmere twin sets. All New York girls illegally buy floor plans from fashion publicists before sample sales. It's the only way to get the best stuff. Jolene and Lara were both exhausted. They had been at a super cool dinner the previous night at one of the Pink Floyd kids' lofts downtown. A waiter brought our drinks, but Lara and Jolene ignored theirs. They were way too stressed about last night. Everyone was like the child of a Rolling Stone or a Mama and Papa, said Jolene. Rock and roll kids make me feel so terrible about myself. I had a total shame attack. Me too, agreed Lara, but then I have a shame attack after most parties. Lara is so insecure sometimes it's criminal, but I guess it's one of the reasons she fits in so well on the Upper East Side. A shame attack is a bit like the Fargos, only it's intellectual, not beauty related. Only girls in NYC and Paris get them. They are much feared because apparently they get inside your brain and keep you awake night after night. Jolene always takes a 10 milligram Ambien, the in-sleeping tablet, when she gets an attack, which is usually at 5 a.m., just when she is about to finally get off to sleep after taking her first Ambien at 1 a.m. Her latest essay was brought on because she'd taken a vintage gold Rolex off the boy to her right at last night's dinner and said she'd meet him for cocktails at the Mercer Hotel the next evening to return it. It was all very sexy and flirtatious. She'd totally forgotten she was engaged when she agreed to it all. Lara's came on because she hadn't read the New York Times since 9/11 and didn't know the most dangerous terrorist cell in the Middle East had been captured last week. She was freaking out all night because she was terrified that people would now think she was a self-obsessed Park Avenue princess with no interest in Israel or anything below 72nd Street. Parentheses, which is pretty close to the truth, but I would never be cruel enough to actually tell Lara how narrow-minded most of us think she is because she has a heart of gold. She really does. Those parentheses. I've never had a shame attack, I said. I'd come close, sure, but I don't think I'd ever had a full-fledged shame crisis. Never, said Lara, turning whiter than her minuscule skirt. Look at her, said Jolene. Of course she never had one. She even looks like she's never had one. I'm going to get something really beautiful for Zach's mom at the sale, I said, changing the subject. The Chanel sample sale drives most New York girls to frantically gobble up as many gilt quilts as they can for themselves and totally forget everyone else. Parentheses, then they go down with an attack of GQG, guilt quilt guilt, close parentheses. I decided I would do the opposite and use the opportunity to perform an uncalled for act of kindness. I'll buy the best purse for my mother-in-law to be. Oh, what a cute idea, said Lara. What a terrible waste, said Jolene. She won't understand it. She comes from Ohio. I ignored Jolene's protestations and called Zach's office from the table. I wanted to check what color his mom might like. Hey, the office. came the reply. It was Zach's assistant, Mary Alice. She talks in the monosyllabic bark favored by a clique of cool bi-coastal assistants. Parentheses, even though she's had her picture in Paper magazine more than 3 times, Mary Alice is transparently miserable. She always dresses in shapeless avant-garde Belgian clothes, which would make anyone unhappy. When I tried to help and explain that being a champagne bubble about town was preferable to being a depressive about town, she said, yeah, right, and didn't do anything about herself. Close parentheses. Resolutely chirpy, I replied, hi, it's me. I'm taking messages only, he'll return, M.A. interrupted. All the Manhattan assistants were doing the message return thing after they found out it's standard at Spielberg's HQ on the West Coast. I need to ask Zach a very urgent shopping question. Who's speaking? M.A. started pretending she has no idea who I am recently. Apparently that's protocol at Calvin Klein's New York office. It's me. Me? His fiancée? He'll return. The line went dead. What's going on with Zach? This was getting weird. I looked up to see Jolene and Laura staring at me as though something really sad had happened, like I'd let my roots grow in or something desperately depressing like that. Are you okay? Said Jolene, cautiously examining her steak which had just arrived. Fine, I said. I smiled my most radiant, in-love smile as if to say I'm happier than you can imagine. If Nicole Kidman could look that glamorous while she was divorcing Tom Cruise, I could smile my way through a few unreturned phone calls. But it's really hard, you know? I realized that day actresses like Nicole really deserve all those free clothes because looking blissfully happy when your blood is turning to tears in your veins is extremely skilled work. I say Nicole didn't deserve an Oscar, she deserves the Nobel Prize. Why won't he talk to you? Added Laura. I felt sick. Was M.A. blocking my calls or was Zach cooling off? I tried to put my doubts to one side. What was I thinking? Zach adored me. Why had he just given me that wonderful necklace otherwise? The simple explanation must be that M.A. wasn't passing on my messages. It's not him, I said, maximizing my smile. It's his assistant. She's very protective. Professional, you know? Before I could go on, I was interrupted by Julie yelling, "Hey girls, did you miss me?" from the other side of the restaurant. She waved at each table as she walked toward us. Julie knows everyone in New York, absolutely everyone. Julie's look that day could be described as walking safety deposit box. She was unashamedly swinging several Van Cleef & Arpels bags. On her index finger was a gold cocktail ring shaped like a rose and studded with garnets. She had new gold hoops in her ears. On her arm was a platinum and emerald bracelet. Presents, she said, collapsing on the banquet and dropping her loot. Banquet. She handed the 3 of us a tiny bag each. Inside was a pave diamond heart, identical to the one around Julie's neck. Julie, you can't, I gasped. I honestly meant it, but at the same time prayed that Julie would ignore my protestation. I just adore diamonds. They make a girl feel really good about herself, especially when she's feeling a bit low. Oh, don't worry, honey, they're almost free, said Julie. I wanted to celebrate love, which is why I got us all a heart. She had a triumphant look on her face that signified one thing, a recent shopping success of the illegal kind. Julie, you've been stealing stuff again, haven't you? Said Laura. Almost, she gulped. She glanced furtively about her and whispered, I've just been to the Van Cleef Uber private favorite clients only studio sale that, like, virtually no one gets invited to. I got so much cheap stuff, you won't believe it. They virtually gave me those hearts. Laura looked like a block of salt. She had gone into mega sulk mode. This tends to happen to Laura on a daily basis. She spoke in a low, very intense voice. But I'm their favorite private client. That's it. I'm leaving, she said, throwing down her napkin, grabbing her phone and stomping angrily from the restaurant. She must have been traumatized because she left her monogram Cali bag behind, a bag she'd waited over 4.5 years for on the Hermes list. Poor Laura. Some girls just can't deal with the brutal hierarchy of sample sales. I mean, the whole thing is so political. Sometimes I wish Condoleezza Rice would come in and sort it all out. Drat, that is a shame attack waiting to happen. I'm going after her, said Jolene, gathering up her things. As she was leaving the table, she said to me, my driver will pick you up at 6:45 a.m. tomorrow. Don't be late. And remember to find out which bag Zach's mother wants. Well, some of us get to go to Chanel sales and some of us get to go to diamond sales. It's just the way the cookie crumbles, sales-wise, Julie sighed. She was beyond thrilled with herself. Poor Laura. She needs to reevaluate her value system. I mean, someone kind really needs to tell her that if she's not careful, she's going to become one of the most superficial 24-year-olds on Park Avenue. Heartbreaking, really. Julie's honesty about her good friends is refreshing, but it's lucky I'm not the gossipy type, or most of her good friends wouldn't be her good friends for long. Suddenly, Julie looked uncharacteristically solemn. She said she had something difficult to tell me. Charlie's gone back to L.A. I'm gutted, of course, but I insisted he send me flowers once a week, and he agreed immediately. How cute, I said. Julie obviously had Charlie wrapped around her little finger, even though they'd known each other only a few weeks. There was a pregnant pause, and Julie shot me a severe look. What's the problem? I asked. There isn't one, because that is how a man should behave, she started to whisper. And yours is not behaving right. He's making you miserable. How Julie could not see that I was officially deliriously happy, I know not. Look at you, you're totally Anna, she went on, which would normally be the best compliment I could pay another girl, but right now you're just too Anna. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It is the general consensus in Manhattan that a girl can never be too rich or too Anna, but there was something I hadn't told Julie which accounted for my extra weight loss. The last time I'd seen Zach at the engagement party, he'd mentioned he was leaving town the next day to photograph a project in Philadelphia. Then Jolene saw him out the next night at Bungalow 8 on 27th Street. When I heard that, I swear I dropped 7 pounds. Why had he said he was away when he wasn't? Then another major factor in my Anna-ness is that it's tradition that a girl as madly in love as I am can't eat a thing anyway. Still, Julie continued relentlessly, you can't marry him. Just imagine what it would be like. You practically disappear with worry. You should be happy and relaxed during an engagement. Actually, Julie's wrong about that. Apparently, everyone's completely stressed out during an engagement. It's supposed to be incredibly stressful. I said, Julie, he's just freaked out and exhausted right now. He just shot that Luca Luca campaign, and he's really upset about that new photographer the agency took on who's been getting all that press. Exactly. You want to marry someone who cares about how much press someone else is getting? What about someone who cares about you and puts you first? He does care about me, Julie, and he's the one. He's not the one. There's no such thing as the one. Julie literally didn't stop talking, even while she was eating her panna cotta, which had just been put on the table by a waiter. Her lips, which looked awesome, dabbed with that new MAC lip gloss that everyone's obsessed with right now, kept moving, but I tuned out. I couldn't hear a thing. I was overcome by a moment of deep introspection. How could I forget Zach's peonies and the dinners and the gifts and everything? According to the laws of romance that I learned from historical movies like Sleepless in Seattle, there is only one, and there's nothing you can do about it. Parentheses, it's like Jackie and JFK were inevitable. Imagine if she'd said no. The whole course of American fashion history would have changed. Close parentheses. I'm all for Jean-Paul Sartre and free will and so on, but when it comes to the one, it's not like you have any say in the matter, even if he's barely speaking to you. Thank goodness I could see everything so clearly. That's the genius thing about introspection. You go in as lost as a Chinese noodle and a Sicilian lasagna and come out thinking straighter than Fifth Avenue. Julie's voice faded back in. So that's what I've heard about him. He's not a good person. Apparently he's got a reputation for torturing girlfriends in a sort of weird psychological way. Darling, maybe he is a psycho. People don't say things like that unless there's a reason. I totally agree, I said. I had no clue what I was agreeing with, but at least I was smart enough to agree with whatever it was Julie wanted me to agree with. Hopefully that was the end of this particular anti-Zach lecture. I gotta go. I said see you at the crack of dawn with Jolene. We've been at the Four Seasons long enough already. I didn't want to hear another word about why I shouldn't be getting married. I got up from the table and left the restaurant. I was going to prove Julie wrong. I called Zach again the minute I was home. My fingers trembled slightly as I dialed his number. He'll return, came the voice. Emma had not even let me speak this time. I couldn't bear it any longer. Actually, it's très sweet of you to offer a return, but I would like a connection immediately, please, I said, as kindly as I could manage. I'm not some kind of AT&T operator. Please tell Zach it's his fiancée and I urgently need to discuss an urgent emergency. I'll take a message. But Mary Alice, you never give him any messages from me. He hasn't returned one message I left with you in the last week. All his messages are on his board. He gets every single one. I don't think Emma was being 100% truthful about her talent for leaving messages. I felt sorry for her being so depressed the whole time, but that didn't mean she could get away with not giving Zach his messages. Please, I begged, please get him. The phone was covered and I could hear muffled voices. Then, bless, Zach came on the line. What? He said. I was right about M.A. Of course Zach wanted to chat with me. The horrible thing was, now that I had him on the phone, I had no idea what to talk about with him. What? Came the voice again. He didn't sound overjoyed to hear from me. Nothing, darling, I blurted. If you've got nothing to say, can you not interrupt me when I'm trying to work? Oh, I remembered. I'll offer to get his mother the purse. I'm getting your mom a gift, and I want to know, would she prefer a pink gilt quilt Chanel purse or a baby blue gilt quilt, or maybe the primrose yellow? I have no idea. Is that the emergency? I'd love to have dinner. Silence. Zach must still be très upset about the new photographer at his agency because the photograph she had taken was on the front of the Herald Tribune today. And he was so busy and everything, I felt guilty for disturbing him at all. I know, I'll cheer him up, I thought. I said, can I take you out for a romantic dinner at JoJo tonight? What is it with you and the most expensive restaurants in the city? How am I supposed to get any work done if I'm constantly babysitting you? He replied. Sometimes I wonder if Zach understands me. Surely he knows that the most expensive restaurants in Manhattan are the ones with the best French fries. And it wasn't like I was asking him to pay. Don't you want to see me at all? I asked timidly. I'll call you later. He hung up. Well, that was progress of a sort. He'd agreed to call later. My phone has like 3% battery left. So I will have to charge it and continue with chapter 5 later. Starting from page 100.